Hey everybody, Jonathan here once again, and today I want to talk about bucket list characters. Characters I want to play before I kick the bucket. Sorry about that high energy info, but you know, I've been recording these for, well, they're going to be sent out over the next couple of days, and most of my videos have been pretty calm tone. I was recording late at night. It's now 7 o'clock in Central Texas, so I want to bring energy. I want to talk about things. I want to do things. I want to have fun. I want my hands to move. I want to be pumped up before I crash the fuck out. So, what kind of character do I want to talk about today? What kind of idea do I have? Well, actually, I don't have an idea. This is a viewer request. First one on my channel. Now, I know you've been watching a lot of response videos lately, but this is a viewer request. Slightly different. Someone asked me an idea. I want to present it. The problem with this idea is, one, the person who asked the name has a very, for at least me, hard to pronounce name, Chepalapepe. And he asked me if I have any bucket list characters who are villains who also happen to be NPCs. And the answer is no. So, Chepalapepe, if you're watching, you see this and you see no, you can stop watching right now, or you can listen to the rest of the ramble. This choice is up to you. I leave it to you. The power is in your hands. So, if I don't have an answer, if I don't have a character that I've been dying to play, why am I making a video? That's simple. Every villain NPC that I've ever made at that particular point was a bucket list character who was getting its spotlight. When my next campaign starts and a villain comes to some degree of antagonistic strength where he is opposing the force of my players, he will be the bucket list character that I want. So, the question is, the question isn't, do I have NPC villains that I'm just dying to play? No, I don't. The question is, what do I look for when building NPC villains that I'm dying to play? So, kind of struggling, this is a character building or a bucket list, but I haven't done a bucket list in a while, and I love the energy of a bucket list idea. What do I look for? Well, number one, humanity. The character has to have desire. They have to have wants and needs. They have to have emotions. They cannot just be a baby-killing rapist. Yes, I'm sorry. You just can't be. You can't just be like, well, that's the mayor of our city. Every Tuesday he likes to kill babies, and every night he's raping his wife. No. That doesn't do it for me. And there's a question, why do we keep putting him in office? Maybe this whole town's evil. Oh, this whole town's evil. Why is there paladins? It doesn't make sense. So, humanity, wants, desires, love, interest, family. Things that can be used against him just like he uses things against you. Or her. And that's always been a big factor. One of my favorite villains was Lady Heartmore, and her wife, Starla, who is a nymph who suffered second-degree burns because of a botched rescue mission. It was always interesting, that dynamic, because Lady Heartmore loved her wife, but it didn't make her any less evil. It didn't make her any less ambitious. It didn't make her any less crazy. It just meant that she was capable of having love in her heart. So, that was one. Now, a fun idea, which has been around for a little bit now, is there is an organization in my world called the Fade. And it is quite possibly one of the most evil things in my fucking world right now, because my players haven't met anybody from the Fade. I thought about this for a while, and I thought, no, they've had to have met somebody from... But I looked through all my stories. my players have not met any member of the Fade, but yet the Fade has been an antagonistic force, and it was a major point of the last campaign, which lasted for, I think, lasted for almost a year, actually. Now, they kept running into people employed by the Fade. They kept running into people who had had dealings with people who had been part of the Fade. But they had never met the Fade. Now, in my world, the Fade is basically the Illuminati. They're a, if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that 500 years ago there was the great Lexington versus Jericho War, which was the elves versus everybody else. Well, the Fade was kind of formed after that, realizing the incompetence of the world government, realizing the incompetence of the capital city of Roanoke, which runs the rest of Lexington. But it's like Rome, basically. Here you have the center point, and then there's just too much land to really rule over. So the Fade was created, and for 500 years, at some capacity or another, they've been trying to just derail the government. But what makes this group scary is they employ demons, they work with devils, evil outsiders are on their payroll. But they're not a religious group. They don't have any strong religious values. They're not doing this in the name of anything except themselves. They'll hire blackguard who valiantly worship evil pieces of shit. But on their same payroll, they could have healers and, standard paladins, actually. As long as, these people didn't realize they were working for them. And so they're not trying to rule with an iron fist. They're not trying to, destroy the world and make it. No. They're quietly in the background, working on little projects, working on different ideas, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Slowly, very meticulously slow, working on taking over the government. And just waiting till the right time. Now there's organizations who fight the Fade, like the Durancho. The Durancho is the strongest proponent of the Fade. And they are actually credited for, a few hundred years ago, destroying the Fade. But that's the problem. They're credited for destroying the Fade, and they're known in history books as, hey, we took down the Fade, yay. So people kept asking, why do you exist? Why do you exist? And the Durancho kept coming back, because the Fade's not gone. And they look at their history books, yes they are, you took care of them. So, the Fade still exists, the Durancho still knows this, and they're still hunting, but in society's eyes, they think, well, you're just chasing phantoms and specters of the past. You've pretty much outlived your need, but we allow you to exist in polite society because of the service you did for us 100 years ago, or 200 years ago. So the Fade just quietly sits back, and occasionally the Durancho comes, destroys one of their operations, and they're like, well, damn, we gotta just close down here. But Lexington is so big, and their funds, which are indeterminate, because nobody knows, they seem damn near infinite. So they can just close down wherever the Durancho made a strong go of it, and they'll move off somewhere else. And the problem is that because most of the time when the Durancho destroys the Fade, they don't actually take down anybody in charge. They take down the mad wizard who was running these horrible experiments. They take down the blackguard that was enslaving people. They take down the dwarves that were mining illegally. They never take down a figurehead. So they stop this horrible thing from happening somewhere, and they're like, well, it was Fade activity. And the world's left kind of in this, was it really Fade? You didn't capture anybody from them. And here are these people who, for one reason or another, they were all following one individual, and a lot of the time the Fade will take care of who's ever in charge. And so when there's, whatever pseudo-leader the Fade was giving orders to, well, the Durancho came in and either killed him, or the Fade came in and killed him and made it look like the Durancho did it. So there's not a lot of people who had connections to the Fade left to answer questions. So that really makes them kind of hard to take down. So that's one of my things I look for when building my bucket list villains is, do you really take them down? And the great thing about the Fate is, there is whenever they pop up in another campaign, they don't make it a note or a point to talk about business they've had somewhere else. So it's kind of hard to say, wait, are you the Fate, or are you just pretending to be the Fate? Is the Fate even a thing? You know, where the Durancho is loosely based together and everybody recognizes everybody else, the Fate doesn't give nods to themselves. They don't talk about what they've accomplished or what they've done. They don't have to. But I recently had a campaign that was only 10 sessions long, and it actually 9 sessions, and it floundered, and we stopped that one. I'm now participating in somebody else's campaign, the map maker, Jonathan Mueller. That session floundered because the villain I built was a great idea, had a lot of backstory behind it, and it was slowly unfolding. Character chemistry wasn't there, and like the idea just wasn't going to happen. But the True Lord was actually a fun idea, because the setup of that story was the Durancho had come in 6 months earlier before the story starts, taking down a Fate facility, and takes down this facility. Some of the equipment goes missing though, and it was all alchemic based, and they were doing these interesting splices of, you know, basically mixing lycanthrope and blood into people who hadn't been bitten, and just giving them various degrees of lycanthropy. So they weren't transformed, but they weren't human either. They were stuck somewhere in the middle. Well, the idea behind this, and if my players are watching, they didn't even get a little bit of tidbit of information, and since the True Lord's kind of been scrapped to the side, where lycanthropy blood was being placed into them, he was going to place dragon blood into himself, because he had a debilitating disease where he couldn't walk. And so the True Lord was going to take the dragon blood, and it was eventually going to be revealed to them. It was going to be shown off. He was going to come, you know, wheelchair bound, educated, but, you know, kind of have a rogue skill set, but not have the ability to use it. And then after taking the dragon's blood and mixing it with the different chemicals, you know, and using the alchemy, he would then be able to be a half dragon, be able to stand, be able to do things. That didn't happen, because that story fell short. But that was the idea behind the True Lord. So, those are my bucket list NPC villains. They're all things I've played, they're all things that are gone and done with. But when I made them, they were on the bucket list. They were what I wanted to play right then and there. So, one last time, let me get the name in. Chepalapepe, I appreciate the question. I'm sorry that there wasn't a more grandiose answer to it. But if you have more questions or more viewer requests, I'm open, not only from Chepalapepe, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but anybody who's watching. Leave a comment, send me a PM, look me up on Facebook. If you think I can do something, if you want to hear me ramble on about a subject, just ask. I can do it. As always, if you're enjoying what I do, please like, share, and subscribe, and have a great day, guys.